I haven't seen fight scenes done as well as they are done in this. These fight scenes, I'm just astonished that nobody got their head knocked off.
There was the odd little injury, Steve, to be honest. There was the odd little scrape, I have going to tell you that now.
You learn to fight.
I fell in love with it as soon as I read it, and I kind of felt like I drew the project to me in a way.
This is a fantastic story.
So basically, I had a chat with my agents about 6 months prior to my audition for this, and I had some clarity about what I wanted to do with my career for the first time in my career. And I said to them, I really would love to play a boxer. I'd love to play someone who really existed. I'd love to do a period drama. I would like to film again in London, because I hadn't filmed here for quite a while. I've been traveling for work a lot and I just missed home. 6 months later, I get this audition. Agents get in touch.
Script lands on your desk.
Yeah, and they're like, we think we might have found it.
Can I just say, any budding actors out there, that's not always the way it happens.
It's not
at all.
It's not. It's never happened. I don't know
Very
if it'll
rare.
happen again.
I don't know anyone else that it's ever happened to.
And we are looking to make some money in the ring tonight.
So yeah, it was one of the easiest choices I've ever made, really. Great script. Wonderful characters, a wonderful world that Stephen Knight had built. So I was like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. Then you get Stephen Graham involved. All right, I'll go.
My name is Hezekiah Moscow, and I am here to fight like my people are watching.
I had the joy of just cooking Stephen fish and rice 3 times a day. So Malachi, Francis, James, Stephen, they took it so seriously. But the dedication and the commitment that they had in order to get those physiques, you've got to take your hat off to them, because it's not easy, you know, and he won't mind me saying, my old man's 50 now, he's 51. It's a bit easier when you're in your 20s to 50, so he had to work doubly hard. But to watch them train and the discipline that they had was, I think it was just admirable, because that was tough. There was a lot of rehearsal process for those boxing scenes. Not only were they rehearsing for days and days, they were then filming for days and days, because those boxing scenes have to be so well choreographed, and they are big, epic scenes. That they took days, not a day, they took days. So to keep that stamina, to have that, do you know what I mean? To keep going day after day after day took some energy and some dedication. And of course, they're boys, so there was the odd bit of rivalry, you know, who could do the most push-ups, who could do the most pull-ups, but it's all done in fun.
And may the good Lord have mercy on your soul!
And for me, in a completely different way, Tom from Water and Power sent me and Hannah this photograph and a little paragraph. 3 paragraphs, one about Sugar Goodson, just a couple of sentences, and one about Treacle Goodson, his brother, and a paragraph about Hezekiah Moscow, just a little tiny bit, and a photograph of Hezekiah. Instantly, when Hannah showed me the photograph, I've never seen a black man look so regal, so dignified, so full of pride and full of grace from that time period. The only photographs I have seen people of that ethnicity and in places of servitude, and I've never seen a photograph like that, and he had so much dignity and humility. Your imagination just runs wild when you see the photograph, because you're like, wow, how has this happened? What has happened to this man in order for him to get there? He wanted us to come on as a production company and produce, and they asked if I would be interested in, if we get it off the ground, would I be interested in playing Sugar? And Hannah just went instantly, Steve Knight's going to write this. And I was like, yeah, whatever. She was like, I'm telling you now, he's going to write this. And I was like, yeah, all right, love. She was like, look, I've been speaking to Julie, that's his assistant. And she said, me and Julie get on like a house on fire because they want you to do Peaky Blinders. And I was like, yeah. And she said, and we've been talking constantly. And this is the kind of thing that Steve loves. I'm sending it to Steve, and I'm going to write a little letter, and there you go. And I basically went, yeah, all right then. Say that was on a Thursday. And then on the Monday, quite early as well, may I add, I think I might have even been doing something, because I was in the full range of my domesticity, and I think I was maybe making a nice cup of tea for me missus while she was doing a graft in the office. And then all of a sudden I've got this, oi, come here. I was like, what? She went, come here. So I wandered over, and she's gone, look. And I've looked, and I've gone, what? She went, look. And then I've read it, and it's basically Steve saying, I really want to be a part of this. It sounds fantastic. It's right up my street. Can we do a Zoom? I'd really love to write it. And that's how it all began, basically.
From Kingston, Jamaica. And we are looking to make some money in the ring tonight.
The 40 elephants are the most extraordinary thing that had never had a TV or show or film made about them, that I know, which is why I was in a real rush to do this, because I thought somebody's going to do this, because it's just a gift. And they would do these mad things. They would go into Harrods, 40 of them, cause absolute chaos and put as many clothes on as they could, fur coats, everything, and then waddle out. That's why they were called the elephants, because they looked like elephants when they left. One of them would pretend to give birth on the street, and while everybody's gathering around and gasping, their comrades would be going stealing gold and watching. There are books written about them which are great and fantastic. I always try, where possible, to have history books there as a sort of basis. I find that historians always write things as if whatever happened was inevitable. In other words, that happened, then that happened, then that happened, therefore, obviously, naturally, that happened. But I think actually history is much more random than that. And I think it's always good to get research from newspapers of the time, and also, in this case, court cases.
Which there was plenty of, because it was the 40 elephants.
And just the way people talk in court, and the way people just say, this is what happened, in a very simple, straightforward, cold way, is the best possible research for trying to, not necessarily succeeding, but trying to understand who these remarkable human beings were.
Some amazing stories, wasn't there? There was a story about the real life Eliza that, and it could be an urban myth because it very often is one of those, right? But there was a story that she used to, she was a great jewellery thief, and she used to get arrested quite regularly, obviously, and there was a prison cell in a certain prison where she used to hide the jewels, so therefore other criminals would get arrested on purpose to try and go to the cell where they knew Eliza used to go, to try and find the brick where the jewels were that Eliza used to hide. So I don't know whether it's an urban myth. You know, there are certain stories that clearly are, and then there aren't. There are some real life, like, you know, articles. There's a great place at Scotland Yard Hotel in London that's actually called the 40 Elephants Cocktail. Did you know that?
I didn't
It's
know.
a cocktail bar called the 40
Oh,
Elephants.
God, let's go.
There's a picture of Alice Diamond, and then there's a case, a glass case, and it's got like bits of things that they stole and articles in there. Yeah, it's fabulous. We went for research purposes, clearly, as the 40 Elephants, just to get into character. We certainly left in character.
Yeah. It's one of those things where reality and truth and things that actually happened are so much more remarkable than anything you could ever make up.
My name is Mary Cobb, Queen of the 40 Elephants, the biggest gang of female thieves in the whole of London.
I think when you were writing it, and we knew obviously that Stephen Graham was involved and part of it, that was the strongest character that you were writing for, in terms of you knew who you were writing for, right? For
absolutely.
Stephen. For everybody else, not so much, although I had a lovely surprise, because as a producer I was reading the scripts, and every time I was reading Eliza I was thinking, God, this woman, I love this woman, and I'm going to have to sit there and watch these women audition for this character, and I'm going to be sitting there with gritted teeth saying, oh, I'd love to play that character. But unbeknownst to me, we had a little meeting a bit later on as producers, and I was asked if I would play Eliza because you'd been thinking about potentially me playing her, which was just lovely, because I think the real Eliza was from London, but we decided to throw a bit of Midlands in there and be a bit creative with that, didn't we? Because we like the whole melting pot of different accents. But in terms of everybody else, the casting came after Steve writing the most beautiful, incredible characters. I mean, there were certain members of cast, like when he wrote Punch, that was instantly Danny, and nobody could see past Danny not being Punch, right? It was just Danny. To be able to cast everybody else, we could widen the net and we could go to different people, and we had Shaheen, who was our wonderful casting director, who found some absolute gems. She's such, she's so incredible at doing that, at finding uncut gems.
Hannah was always a given as far as I was concerned, so we knew that was going to be the case.
I didn't know that.
I know. When you get Stephen, at the centre of this, leading the line, which he does so brilliantly, then not only do you get the best people, but when you do get the best people, they bring their best game. But to have this repertory of brilliant actors who are all bringing this whole thing to life was a pleasure. So it meant that when I was writing the second series, you know what you got, and you know you've got a lot of fantastic stuff there to play with.
I know we keep passing it to each other, but that's because you write them so beautifully. So when you've got a character that's written so beautifully with so many layers, as an actor to be able to unpick and unpeel those layers, you allow that, do you know what I mean, that us as actors to be able to take what you've created and then go anywhere. You always have a history behind each of your characters that's not shown on the page as such, as not told in the scene, but it's there, it's rooted in there, and that's joyful.
Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome.